Transformers Animated Jazz. Over the years on this little channel of ours, we have made quite a few customs, and it's only fitting that Jazz is the first character to be getting his second customization, as today we are hopefully giving Animated Jazz the TLC and shiny coat of paint that he deserves. Hello everyone and welcome back to Hobbies with Jose. Good to have you back. Today we do have a special treat of a custom project. We are going to be working on the absolute classic that is Transformers Animated Jazz. Now I did pick this up very much used, so it's going to need some TLC. Namely, the ball joints on the shoulders are just absolutely loose. And sadly he's missing his weapon, so I think we're going to have to make our own. Also looks like some of the pins have accumulated quite a bit of rust, so I'm going to see if I can clean that up a bit. But apart from the condition of the figure, there are some modifications I plan on doing. We do have a small bit of hollowness on the inside of the legs that we'll go ahead and fill in. And as always, I've never been much of a fan of light piping, so we're going to get the back of the head painted in, as well as putting a nice shiny blue for the visor. And I do want to get the paint job to pretty much match what we see on the show. For example, these white sections here on top, I'll go ahead and get painted black to match the body of the character. And the stripe that it has in vehicle mode doesn't continue on to the rest of the body, which would be down here in the legs. Even though Animated Jazz doesn't have that in bot mode in the show, I do want to complete that stripe just to give us a better vehicle mode. And lastly, maybe something a little bit special for the Autobot symbol, and try to create something that better matches the look of the show. So with all that said, let's get started. So this disassembly process has been interesting to say the least. Sadly, it was impossible for me to tell that the rear lights were molded in clear plastic, and so they did go into the paint stripper, but thankfully they didn't snap. They're still fully intact in one piece, so I'm thankful for that. And as for the torso itself, it was kind of glued in place, so snapping it apart was a little bit nerve-wracking. But what was really interesting is the little piece that was inside. It had this little tiny plastic piece with a spring to help the torso to swing into proper place from vehicle to bot mode. I wouldn't have expected to have found this, but I'm certainly glad it's there. This definitely helps for the transformation. And of course, as we've seen sometimes before, there was definitely some stubborn paint. These stripes on the body were really impossible to take off completely. But it's not really going to cause us an issue since we are going to prime this and have a nice shiny coat of white before we add our own stripes on top. But before we get to the priming, we have some cleanup to do. I do want to scrape away any excess mold lines some of the pieces might have, and also fill in any hollow sections we see. Also, I want to clean up the little bit of rust that we have on this white pin as well as some of the other screws. And of course, we have to design and print our accessories from scratch too, so we've got some measurements to make. So let's go ahead and continue. So while we wait for the putty to dry, it's a perfect time to get working on those missing exhaust pipes. This would be the point where I would start designing them on Blender, but instead, I decided to do a little bit more digging online. And thankfully, I found someone that already designed them for us. TFPivMan over at Colts3D.com has made what looks to be the perfect design for these missing exhaust pipes. And so thanks to him, I was simply able to print my own. I'll of course be linking his page down in the description so you can grab your own set too. Now my 3D printer does seem to overexpose the parts just a little bit, so they don't really want to go in just yet. But instead of tweaking the settings on my printer, I'm going to go ahead and just sand these down a little bit and get them fitting just right. Well, we are now at the final step of this build. The paint is all completed and the limbs are just waiting to be reattached, but he's not going to be complete without his Autobot emblem. Now, obviously I do have my regular dry transfer decals that I've used in the past, but Jazz is part of the Elite Guard, so he needs something a little bit more than that. So I decided to take a stab at it and draw my own based off what we see on the animated show to make my own. And I gotta say, this came out pretty clean. Print quality this time is from an inkjet printer, but it retained the details very well. So let's go ahead and add that final touch.
Been itching to give my new wheels a spin. Besides, any species that could come up with a sweet ride like this can't be all bad.
This was, without a doubt, a very special project to work on. Being able to work on such a classic figure like Animated Jazz was tremendously rewarding, but it did also have some different challenges than your typical customization. Being an older figure, it looked like he hadn't been taken care of very well. Apart from needing just a really good cleaning, we had the loose joints like the shoulders, and some rust buildup on some of the wide pins. I tried to get as much of the rust off as I could, but the saving grace was just being able to paint over them. Also, adding Kiki's joint solution on the shoulders really ended up working wonders too. They're pretty solid now. I did just have to apply a couple of coats, but those ball joints are fully functional once again. But I think one of the biggest shortcomings of the figure itself is that the original paint job is kind of left incomplete. It's such a striking difference to now see the top section of the bot mode that's supposed to be black now actually fully black. Also in the cartoon model, it looks like he's wearing a turtleneck, so the top part of the neck is supposed to be gray, matching the face. And painting in that little detail makes such a big difference too. Obviously getting the nice chrome blue on the visor really makes it pop now, along with the shiny new headlights, which yes, we got the border around them painted in black too, so we didn't miss that. Now getting the racing strap across the entire body of the vehicle did also affect the look of bot mode. we add a bit of color to those legs, which I ended up liking quite a bit. I was actually debating on adding additional stripes over the rear wheels, but I decided that it was just a little bit too much color. Big shout outs to the digital artists on the Discord for helping me visualize that. Also, another section I changed a little bit were the little bits where the accessories connect on the arms. Originally on the figure, they're all a metallic colored plastic, but here I wanted to take the opportunity to make it match a little bit better with what we see in the show. Even though the shape of it is quite a bit different, I think that adding a little bit of extra shiny white to it makes it blend better with the vehicle overall. And also, one little painting detail that I decided to add kind of last minute, the animated model has these little black stripes on the upper legs, but on the figure, they're kind of just notches that they cut in. Painting in the insides of them black, I think really helps to try to match the look of the show overall. But just for that last final touch, making that custom decal to match the Autobot logo just a little bit better to what we see in the show, I think it what brings this whole thing home for me. And maybe we'll get to use it again in the future? Maybe not on an original animated figure, I don't know if I'll do any more of those. This is really just kind of a one-off thing. But we do have legacy animated figures to work on someday, and they would 100% get that animated Autobot logo too. But as for this guy, I think he's just a very special one-off. Hey, you know what? I hope you enjoyed watching as much as I enjoyed making this. And if you did like what you saw, feel free to hit that like and subscribe and leave a nice comment. It's always helpful. Of course, you can always catch me on all the social medias. The links are down below. I'm also live on Twitch on Fridays and weekends, where lately we're making some great progress in Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, but I'm probably still 100 hours away from beating the game, right? Who am I kidding? But if you can't catch me live, I do upload them to my second YouTube channel, Hobbies with Jose Gaming. You can also support the channel by becoming a member and using some awesome emotes, or head on over to the merch store for some great stuff there. Or if you really want to support, head on over to patreon.com/hobbieswithjose, and you can pick out a tier that's right for you. Maybe even have some input into what I work on next. Big thanks to my existing patron Skybite and Dominic Zen, who was kind enough to sell me this excellent figure for a steal too. This video wouldn't be here without you, dude, so thanks so much. Now, as for what's coming up next, I think it's time I ripped this band-aid and did something crazy.